Hi, I'm Representative Al Baldessaro, and I'm one of the co-hosts of Who's Looking Out for You?
And I'm Jeanine Nodder, also a state representative, and I'm the other co-host.
Well, we have a special guest today that we're honored to have, and I had an opportunity last night to listen to her in Nashua, and what a great job there. She has spoken to a room full of loyal, dedicated Republicans.
Yes,
And
I've known Karen for many years, Karen Testerman. She's running for the U.S. Senate, and we have her on the show today to tell us
Welcome,
about how that's going.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to come.
Okay, before we get started, why don't you tell everyone who you are, how you got involved, and why you're running for Senate?
Okay,
The
well,
U.S. Senate.
the U.S. Senate, yes, against Jeanine. I'm Karen Testerman, and I came to New Hampshire about 20 years ago. My husband's a retired Air Force officer. We have 3 of our 4 children are involved in the military. They're either actively or retired or former type. With the Air Force, the Navy, and the Coast Guard. When I came to New Hampshire, first thing I encountered was Goals 2000, and along with some other concerned citizens, I got involved with laying the proposed federal program side by side with the Communist Manifesto. And then we were very successful in convincing the State Board of Education to be the only state in the union to turn down Goals 2000. And from there, we also started realizing that there's a lot of people out in the public that don't even know about our Constitution. It's 20 pages long, and why we should understand what the Constitution is, because it's the governing document for our country. And so I joined together again with other concerned citizens to form what is now the National Heritage Center for Constitutional Studies here in New Hampshire.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then I started realizing that there's not anything that happens in the State House in Concord that doesn't impact our families. And I was aware of family policy councils. So again, with other concerned citizens, I joined together and became the founder and executive director of Cornerstone Policy Research. And I ran that for about 8 years. One of the things that, as a small business owner, you know, is that there's many sacrifices of time, talents, and money that you make to make your business successful. And some of our business people, when they go into this, they sleep on the floor, they give up their salaries, they do anything they can to make sure that they're able to get their businesses up off the ground, and I was no different from them. David and I realized early on that it was going to be a struggle to get this family policy council up and going, and so we made a commitment at that time that we would forego any salary for it and just take the time
That's
to
dedication.
do it. It is.
So you've proven that you're dedicated.
Yes, yes.
Well, of course, our town manager here in Londonderry stepped in, and you put him in the position.
Right. He was my a follow-on guy, and he took it to the next level and really made it a very influential organization in the state of New Hampshire, probably one of the most. So, when I look at our country and the position we're in right now, I realize that there are a lot of things that are wrong. We're being lied to, where there's no confidence in what's going on, and I just feel that my country needs me. And so I'm running for the United States Senate, and I bring to it commitment, integrity, and what I say I'm going to do, I will follow through and do.
Well, Karen, there's a number of issues that, people will hear it, oh yeah, Fast and Furious, but they don't really know what these issues are. So let's start with this one, because this is a bumper sticker. I believe I got this from you. It says, remember Benghazi. Everyone's heard Benghazi, but how many people still remember what happened in Benghazi with the 4 Americans killed?
Yeah, over a year ago, this incident occurred. And the really troubling part about this is this was an American embassy. American embassies are on American soil, in essence. And when these men were trying to defend their position there, they have direct connection with the White House. They have a direct connection with all of the top leaders, and for 17 hours or more, these men underwent a total attack and were murdered.
And called for help.
And called for help and had help in the theater that could have responded, and nothing was done. And you know, we can go over many of the rumors about what went on, but something has to be, we have to have answers for this.
Somebody
and we
needs
haven't
to be
had,
accountable. You're
right,
right.
exactly. And I think the thing that really got to me was I was talking to one of the Special Operations Speaks generals who founded that organization, and he said the ambassador of an American embassy is the equivalent of a 4-star general.
That's right.
And we have been known through our military always that we leave no one behind. Al, you know that, you're
That's
a
right.
Marine. And so here we had 4 American people, one of them the equivalent of a 4-star general.
He was
and
tortured.
Who was tortured and mangled, and you know, we have these 3 SEALs, or 2 of them were SEALs, I'm sorry, who were no longer active duty SEALs, but they saw that there was an emergency, and they did the thing that they have been trained to do and that they gave their lives to do. They went to the aid of their fellow man, and yet we have an administration that seemed to turn their back, a Secretary of State who we want to, or some people want to run for the United States presidency.
Go ahead and say
who-
her name.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
Hillary
Hillary,
Clinton, and
that's
she
right,
said,
Clinton.
what difference does it make?
Yeah, what
That's
difference
what a
does it make?
disgrace
It-
that was when I heard her say
Oh,
that.
it was horrible. And you know, the reality is that we need some accountability. We need to have somebody that's going to go down there. And Kelly Ayotte has been doing that, I have to say. She's been pounding the pavement on trying to get answers on Benghazi, but we need the answers.
I don't understand why has Senator Jeanine been so quiet on this here. You know,
Well-
I mean, you know, 4 deaths, Americans.
Right. And these are people who gave their lives for our country so that she could be a senator, you know, in essence.
So are you going to push her as a senator for accountability on this here, to get the book closed on this, tell the
Absolutely.
families what actually happened?
Well, you know, it's not just Benghazi. There's SEAL Team 6, too. We don't
right.
know what happened in that helicopter, why there was a change in the manifest that was not passed through the proper chain of command. You know, there are all kinds of
So-
questions that go on with the SEAL Team 6 disaster.
Just for clarification, SEAL Team 6 is not the SEAL team that the movie Lone Survivor is based on.
No, that was SEAL
different set of
Team, I
SEALs.
believe, 11.
And Dan Healy of New Hampshire was one of the SEALs killed.
Right.
Yes, he was, yeah.
Yeah, that was a
And
separate incident.
That
right,
was a
and,
totally,
right.
that had occurred in Afghanistan several years before.
So
but
just refresh the audience's memory about SEAL Team 6. What it was a
Well,
helicopter.
SEAL Team 6 was a set of, if I'm not mistaken, they were on a helicopter. They were evacuating with some Afghanistans,
Right.
but they changed the Afghans who were supposed to be on that mission, were removed and replaced with someone else. And normally what happens then is that everyone is alerted that there's been a change in the personnel. Well, that did not happen. And this helicopter was shot down and all aboard were
right.
killed.
I do remember the incident.
Right.
yep.
It's a shame.
And so when the parents were there at in Dover, I believe it is, where they bring
Yes.
the bodies back, the president and Hillary Clinton came up and assured them that there would be answers. And they will tell you now, they don't have any answers, and they're still waiting for answers on what happened.
Well, I don't trust either one of those people.
I don't either. The
Yeah.
cover-ups, I mean, I've seen it
The cover-
myself in my 22 years as an active duty Marine. The cover-ups, it's a damn shame. I mean, we could probably debate this here issue over and over for hours.
Oh,
Believe
yes,
me,
yes,
I went to
exactly.
the Safe House and other stuff. But anyways, the Affordable Care Act,
Yeah.
Obamacare.
Obamacare.
It's
this
not
is one of
affordable.
It's
That's
not,
right.
I keep calling it you mean the unaffordable.
This is one of the hottest subjects here that are facing New Hampshire residents that are going to be fined.
Right.
How are you going to help New Hampshire and fix this? And so our residents are not going to be affected.
Well, first of all, we have to understand that Obamacare is not about health care. It's not about helping us insure people who are uninsured. It's really about control. If I can get
said
you,
it.
You said it,
It's
that's
about
right.
control.
right, and
Government
if I can
control.
control you, if I can get you to buy into the fact that I am giving you, I'm speaking, I, the government, am giving you an entitlement that you will now continue to vote for me because you need that entitlement. It's really about enslaving the American public and taking away our liberties and our freedoms. So second of all, we have to realize that we're not going to ever repeal Obamacare, but we're going to have to systematically dismantle it. And how you do that is you step on the air hose, and the best way to do that is to take away the funding. So systematically going in and making it known that we have to take away this funding and that funding and start to remove the rules and regulations. It's going to be a long job, but it's something that needs to be done, and you have to have somebody that's going to have their eye on the ball and constantly bringing it back. How are we going to get us to the end where people, our insurance companies, our citizens, our whoever, even our uninsured and our the crazy thing about that is, before I finish, I need to finish that sentence, but be sure that they have the freedom to choose and the liberty to choose. That's what America's all about, is you have the ability to make choices for yourself. And you can choose to fail, you can choose to succeed, but you have that ability. And what Obamacare does is it takes away that ability. And what I was going to rabbit trail off onto is, we keep talking about all these people that are uninsured. Meanwhile, we're 22,000 to 24,000
right.
New Hampshire citizens have been told that they no longer have insurance, that their insurance companies are going to go away. And thank you, Jeanine, for making sure that we didn't have competition in our insurance companies.
Yes, she owns that.
She does own that.
I don't know if you're aware that the Democrats, yesterday, we were in session, have voted in Medicaid expansion, and still has to go to the Senate, so of course we're hoping our Senate puts a stop to it. But the thing that got me aggravated about this, and I'm sure you touch on, is why somebody would vote to fine or tax our people if they're young and don't want to be part of it. Are you going to get up there and kick some butt there for us and stop this?
Well, absolutely,
Yeah.
Al. I mean, the reality is that it's not up to the government to pick winners and losers. The government has 3 jobs. They're supposed to provide us with this national defense. They're supposed to make sure that when we are conducting business across state lines that it's done fairly, and we're supposed to have an infrastructure, roads and post office, which we've abdicated, and that sort of thing, being able to communicate across the airwaves, etc. So those are the jobs of the government. It's not about providing for a charity or making sure that all of welfare and pensions and so forth like that. And quite honestly, we have $3 in 1960 when President Kennedy, who was a Democrat, said, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. At that time, we spent $1 on welfare, health, education, those sorts of things out of every 3. Today, we're spending $2 out of every 3 on those things.
Right. Well, I'll tell you one thing, it's out of control in Washington, and we definitely need somebody in there to stand up and speak out. I mean, if you being married to a military guy, I mean, I'm sure you've seen, like, the prosthetic tax. That affects every other veteran,
Right.
every veteran that lost their limbs, because if they want to specialize running, prosthetic, they're going to have to pay a hefty tax on this stuff.
Right, and then some people say, oh, there's no tax for that. Like, what do you mean?
That's right, yeah.
Well, and unfairly, this Congress constantly comes after the military. Instead of looking and saying, for the latest example is this reduction in the COLA, in the cost of living allowance, that every year all federal employees are subjected to an increase in their pension based on the cost of living allowance. Well, they want to tax the military 1%. And not the rest of the federal employees, not even Congress.
That's right.
If Congress was really serious about cutting the budget, they might look at their own salaries for a little while,
yeah,
or
yeah.
their own benefits.
They don't even have to
Comply
be part of, with Obamacare.
Exactly.
And it's in law that they get their
disgusting.
raise every year with no problem. Senator Jeanine didn't go to the floor to fight for the veterans there. like Kelly Ayotte did with an
No, she did
amendment
not.
there, and they wouldn't even let it go through. It's
Right,
a shame.
right. It is a shame, and it's wrong that we keep
Right.
targeting our military. And our military now,
They should come first. I'm
Ex-
sorry, but the federal government's job is to protect us from terrorists, not military and people that
right.
live in this country, but terrorists that want to hurt us. Military should be number one.
and it was Ronald Reagan that said we have peace through strength. Well, our military today is not strong.
No, it's
been
not.
very, very
Right.
weak. You know, how many people out here are in our listening audience are driving 40-year-old cars or 22-year-old cars?
Right.
Our military now is operating with equipment that is 22 and 40 years old. I mean, the B-52 that came out in the 1950s is still flying.
That's
They're
right.
not planning to retire it until 2050. It's absolutely phenomenal.
That's right, because that's a plane there that the new technology, they're able to resuit it up. If I can, to get back again on the retirement thing you brought up is very important, and I know you'd be a loud voice because you understand. My thing is, I'm a retiree myself. For my first couple of years under Obama, we didn't get a COLA raise.
Right.
I don't care myself if I don't get a COLA raise. What bothers me is the disabled veterans that were retired because they lost legs and limbs, who retired on a lower income than I did,
Right.
that are taking the cut. And most people don't understand the effects that's going to have on these disabled veterans that serve 3, 4, 5 tours in combat.
Exactly,
Right.
and it amounts. I mean, for an I think it was an E8. It's like $83,000
right.
over that
And
period
that's
of
me,
time
a
that they're
E8,
talking about,
right.
right? Or for an officer, it was $125,000.
Right.
That's the equivalent for these guys who are still have children at home, going to college. That's a college education for those people, and we're going to target them. And the disabled vets, absolutely, that is just a crime that we should not even be beholden to. I mean, we're all upset about Chris Christie and his not Chris Christie himself, but his
Right,
staff
staff.
going after a
Mayor,
a mayor by tying up the traffic.
yeah, that
but
was a shame.
well, what's wrong? What
Interesting
happened
how
to all
that story came out now gets the focus off of the president. You know?
Right. Well, that happens a lot, don't we?
Yes.
But you know, the thing is that what we need in Washington D.C. right now is we need some character. We need some ethics. We need people who are going to be honest and forthright, and we need to get rid of all of the deception that's going on.
Since you brought that up, honest and forthright, and then we get rid of this deception, NSA, what's happening? I don't understand
Yes.
this.
I know, and
You
and I was talking to a security specialist last night, and he said that the NSA, what has happened with the NSA, will take us 30 years to, even if we started right now and said, okay, we understand what the problems all are, and we've got an administration that's behind us, and we'll fix it. It'll take us 30 years to reestablish where we were before that
Do you know
broke.
anything about a class action lawsuit filed by Rand Paul? I believe that every person who owns a cell phone can be part of this class action lawsuit. Is suing
I've
because they're
heard
reading
about
all
it,
of
yeah.
our texts.
There's also another senator who's taken the president, I think, to court on executive orders,
Right.
especially on Obamacare and other stuff there, because by right, who is he, the Messiah, to overrule the our Congress, our legislative process?
Well, hopefully, when we do get a new president in 2016, that we will have someone who will issue one executive order to nullify all previous
Right.
executive orders.
Yes.
Definitely.
Oh, that's what we need. So
That's what we need,
Yep.
is somebody
and we
who will
need
have
it
the
to not be her.
right. Well, you know, we need a good candidate. We had several people running in the last in 2012 that were qualified people. Romney didn't win, but certainly one of those other candidates could possibly be our nominee the next time, and they would equally be good people to move forward. So I'm not afraid of who we might have as our candidate, but I do want somebody that's going to have the titanium backbone that
Right.
Michelle Obama talked about.
Bachmann?
Bachmann, thank you. Michelle Bachmann talked about. I
Right.
mean, absolutely, we need that titanium backbone. Michelle Obama has one too, but it's taking our country down a different road as long as we provide her with lots of vacations.
Well, you know, of course, Michelle Obama is saving the kids in
27
school, making them eat their vegetables, and I'm willing to bet, and talking to some of the kids, that at least they come to at my house or other friends, they're not eating all this.
No,
they don't
they're
eat
not.
all
They're
these
not getting enough
vegetables.
calories
The
either.
school's
They're
throwing,
hungry.
No, they're
throwing
not
away
getting
more
protein.
money. That's
I-
right.
There's a
And-
lot of things that
It's-
it's really, well, the reality is that here again, this is about control. It's about we know better for you than what you the people know. It's about we the people. It's not about
That's
the
right.
elite
And
in
not
Washington,
all
D.C.
children are overweight. Some are in sports and they need those extra calories. I have a son that only grows up.
Yeah.
He doesn't grow out. It's like I have to buy him new pants again this week because he's grown more, but only up, not
Oh,
out.
I remember those
Yeah,
stages.
right.
So even on days when he buys lunch at school, I have to pack him extra food because it's not enough, and he's still hungry when he gets home.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, they're a continuum
He's a
machine,
boy.
right? He's a boy.
Yeah,
right?
he's a boy.
He's
Yeah, I
growing,
know.
and that's
I know my wife's kids come home hungry every day from the school, the
Right.
food there. You know, they're pizza, chicken nuggets, and you know, maybe a little bit of pasta here and there, but all this other
But
vegetables.
here again, though, it's not about what we're providing the children. It's about the parents' control
That's
over
right.
it. And this all started out. She sent a child, took away a child's lunch that the mother had provided and packed and said it's not good enough, and then turned around and gave him something that I think was terrible in a replacement. I mean, for heaven's sakes, they do not know. It's the people who are closest to the situation who know best what's going on, and that's why I think we need to start really pushing the federal government to get smaller and let the states and the local communities decide what's best for their.
Amen.
Well, you know what she's talking about, of course, when you started Cornerstone, is really with family values, moms and dads getting involved in their children, and it went into a lot of other areas, but it all dealt with the family, and that's a great organization here that's grown and grown over the years, so I want to thank you for that there.
Oh, thank you.
One of the other areas, I know because we've got about probably 7 minutes here, is very important to us, like, of course, the cover up of the IRS on how they get involved in people's lives.
Oh,
and-
the
Oh, yes.
intimidation of
Oh,
the
yes.
IRS.
And who was it that signed a letter for the IRS to go after
Well,
conservative groups?
That's right.
Was
to
it
s-
Jean Shaheen?
Yes.
Yes.
She, along with 6 other senators, wrote this letter to the IRS to encourage them to investigate 501c4s and 501c3s to see if they were misusing their organizations. But they also went after individuals. And on my radio program, I actually interviewed a few of those individuals who were targeted, and one of them was, he was just a dad who was a homeschooling dad who had been asked by other homeschooling parents, would you mind putting together a course that addresses the foundations of the country? And so that's all he was teaching, was
Right.
basic foundations of the history of America. And the IRS wanted to now say that he could not receive a 501c3. They asked him extensive questions. I think they were like 8 or 9 pages worth of questions. Who was getting behind him? Who was donating to him? What was he spending his money on? And in some cases, they even asked prayer groups, what is the content of your prayers? None of your business, is one of the famous New Hampshire politicians would say, Dave Wheeler. None of your business.
That's right.
NOYB.
Well, you know, you look at what today, I'm in the middle of refinancing my house because I've been lazy, you know, too busy, finally getting around and knocked my 7.5% down. With the Dodd-Frank law that's out there on banking, I cannot believe what I'm going through. I have to write a letter on anything, why I have some excess money in certain areas of my account, where it came from, why I spent this, why I made this deposit. I mean, it's crazy. All I want to do is lower my payments. I mean,
Right.
what do we think it is? Somehow we can get rid of this?
Exactly. I mean, when we went through refinancing earlier, we wrote a letter to the head person that was overseeing our financing, and we said, we didn't have to answer all of these questions before or fill out all of these forms. What is this all about? Because it's highly intrusive. And she said, it's Dodd-Frank. And you know, the reality is, and you bring up a really good point, in all of the paperwork that has to be done, yet under Obamacare, we have doctors that are closing their businesses because the requirements for reporting are so onerous that they will have to hire 1 or 2 people just to remain compliant.
Right.
That's absolutely ludicrous. And so as a result, I know one doctor up in Wolfboro who was a specialist, closed his practice, and the 5 people who were working for him no longer have jobs.
Right. I know another doctor, he had to close his practice too.
And
Overregulation.
if they're able to continue their practice, they're not able to see as many patients
Right.
because of all of the paperwork requirements are now changing the amount of time that they can spend with each one of their
And the paperwork often
patients.
comes back. They send it out and they'll send it back. Oh, you didn't cross the T right,
right,
here.
exactly.
You forgot to dot
Right.
this I. Ridiculous things. So by the time it goes back and forth, before they finally get some paid,
Right.
they've spent more in postage, and they might as well just treat the patient
You
for
know
free.
what? There's 2 doctors, husband and wife team in my town, and I met them up at the State House. And they told me if they have to do Medicaid expansion, they can't stay in business. They can't survive on the 30% cost.
Right.
That for it would cost, they'd be spending more money out of their pockets. Just last night, I received an email from a constituent that signed up for Obamacare because he's one of New Hampshire residents got knocked off. He said he paid his premium, he has appointments, but he can't go to them because no medical card, no nothing. And I think you had somebody else too. Was it you that told me there was somebody else in your district, or might have been somebody
Oh,
else?
I read about it.
Right. But I mean, they're struggling. I mean, how do we get a grasp on this and say, hey, let these people, you know, they paid, give them their card.
I know. It's a total boondoggle, and it's because of the, you know, it's because primarily we gave, or the government gave these contracts to friends. They didn't go through the proper vetting system. They didn't figure out what was it they were going to need, and a lot of the rules and regulations still haven't been written.
Right.
So this is something that you know, we have to have people like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul who stand on the floor of the House or the Senate and say, we're not going to bend for this, we're going to filibuster. You know, filibustering is good. It is opening the doors so that when we get an average Joe out here finally get wind of this, that it's going on, one of the things that we want to have time to do is be able to look at it, investigate it, ask questions, get to our senators or our congressmen, and to be able to talk about it. Well, if we stop the filibuster and we call for the question, which in essence I forgot what it was called, when they vote for it, the cloture
Right,
vote
okay.
is basically calling for the question.
Right.
Then the American people don't even have time to respond. It's sort of like this Medicaid expansion that the House just voted for in the state of New Hampshire without public input.
That's right.
They're not even going to have public input.
You know, we challenged them under a Rule 41, and the Rule 41 stated that you have to have a hearing on this because the language was changed on what they
Yes.
originally voted on. But
did.
they just pushed the rules aside. They didn't want to hear it. They kept saying we were out of order.
Yep.
And it's a disgrace here.
It is a disgrace, and we need people to, in all levels of government, who will stand up and say, this is not right, we are calling for it.
We need transparency.
Exactly.
It's got to be out there.
It's got to be out there, and
Right.
we've got to quit, in the federal government anyway. I'm with Rand Paul. Don't hand me an 800-page bill an hour before we're supposed to vote on it and ask
Right.
me to read it. There's no way. And in fact, it'll take them at least a week to read through that whole 800
right.
pages in the first place, to understand it, to make all the references, to to see what other laws are being impacted by this particular document. I think we have to start saying to them, if it's over 5 or 10 pages long, we don't consider it. We've got to have a subject by subject by subject and make sure that it's singular, like the House was doing. They were
Right.
passing individual budget items.
You ain't kidding. You know, we can go on and on and on, and we could talk about the governor's session and the special session and other stuff there on how there was no transparency. Want us to vote on something we never read.
We
Right.
had a filibuster
Yeah.
plan too.
But anyways, we got about 27 seconds left in the show there, and
So we'll say thank you to
yeah,
Karen
we
for
want.
coming
Well,
on the
thank you
show.
very
Let
much.
me
and
ask you before we move real
Yeah.
quick. How does somebody get in touch with you if they want to be part of your campaign?
TestermanForSenate.com.
Okay.
Testerman.
And they can listen to your radio show, I understand, WSSM.
WSMN.
Oh,
WSMN 1590 out of
Okay.
Nashua on Mondays and Thursdays from 10 to 11. And thank you so much for
Well,
inviting me.
Well, it was an honor having you here, Karen, and we've been friends for a long
Yeah.
time now, and we'll continue and support and make forward. As Karen is a good conservative and very strong in Second Amendment and veterans issues.
Thank
And
you.
thank you. Jeanine, once again, a great show, and Who's Looking Out for You? Thank you for watching. Bye. Well, welcome back to Who's Looking Out for You, and I'm sitting here again with my co-host. We're ready to discuss on state and local issues. And Jeanine, what do you think we need to start with?
Well, I think we should talk about that little incident that happened in the State House during our session this week where protocol was not followed, and they took a vote without us because we weren't called in.
Right. Well, that, of course, is the Medicaid expansion bill there.
No,
wait, I'm sorry. No,
it was the funding for
charter schools. That's right.
charter schools, and I wanted, because
That's right.
when somebody asks for a roll call, it needs to be seconded by at least 10 people.
That's right.
So, and I wanted to make sure I was one of those 10 people because I'm a fan of the charter schools, and I wanted to make sure that they got the funding, that little extra funding. We have the money for it. So I tried to go back into the House before the vote was taken so that I can second that motion to make it a roll call, get your name on it. And they wouldn't let me in. I said, what do you mean you won't let me in? You didn't call roll call. And it was a new guard. I'd never seen him before, an elderly gentleman. And I said, they were already voting. I said, would you tell them that they need to stop? We didn't get to vote. You didn't call us. So he did walk away, and that's when I came and got you and the others that were sitting there. I said, hey, they're voting. They're voting without us. They didn't tell us. So we all went in, and they weren't happy, and there were some things. You take it from there.
That's right. Of course, the speaker got mad because we challenged her, because the anteroom in the back of the chambers is designed for us to go out and discuss issues.
Number one, she never asked for the second.
That's right.
She said a roll call has been requested. She didn't ask for a second.
That's
that was
right.
the first protocol that was breached.
And we challenged her, and of course I went in, I was mad, and said this is a bunch of BS, and it shouldn't happen. Then one of the Democrats, I thought, did a good job because he went up and made a motion to reconsider.
Right.
And then the reconsider passed, and we end up voting again.
So if you look up the votes, there's actually 2 votes for the funding for the charter schools. The first one, there was 13 people missing because protocol was not followed.
That's right.
They
I
did
was
not
one of them.
call us in for roll call. They are supposed to. I mean, we all laugh. It sounds funny. The guards will yell roll call, and you can hear it down all the halls. You can hear it in the
Right.
Senate.
I
Even
think
the
they were
Senate can
hoping to
hear.
kill that bill because they didn't want it overturned. It was an expedient, the legislature to kill it.
Right.
And then it got overturned. The vote was there, and they weren't happy about it.
Well, during the second vote, where we did get to vote, when we could hear the guards calling roll call, there was a lot. We're not supposed to clap in the House chamber, but there were several people clapping. Like, see, that time they did it right. They did their job. They're supposed to call roll call
Right.
every time.
And one thing I learned from that on the charter school yesterday, I never knew, like Manchester Charter School, 20% of the kids are from the juvenile hall, or issues that they've taken on. And they're doing so much better there. They had issues in the public schools, and they were getting in trouble, but yet this is like a second chance for them, and they've been excelling and doing good. I was impressed with the
Right.
data that came out.
And you've been to the Academy of Science and Design in Nashua.
Yes, I have,
It
and I was
wasn't-
also a guest speaker at the Manchester on constitutional issues at the charter school in Manchester.
They do such a wonderful job at the charter schools. I am so impressed. And when we talk to those kids, because they don't get as much money, they get very little money that they have to work with. So some of the classrooms, the walls don't even go all the way up.
That's right.
So when there was one of the legislators asked the kids, well, what would you like for your school? What would you like to see improved? Nobody mentioned the walls and improving
That's
how
right.
it looks.
They didn't
And
care how it
what
looked.
they wanted was more equipment for the lab.
right.
They're in it for the education. Education is number one, not the jobs.
And moms and
you know?
dads are involved in that charter
Yes,
school program.
they are. They do a lot of volunteering.
And the thing what I don't understand is the studies that are out there showing charter school kids are scoring higher than on
They
the
are.
public school, just like the homeschooler.
Yes.
So my thing, as a rep like you, is let's, rather than throw more money at the school, let's see what are they doing for less.
Well,
But yet-
most of the money, it's the whole, to me, it just seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, the whole public school system seems to be set up as jobs.
One
It's for
size
jobs.
fits all.
Yes, it's for jobs. All the money,
Right.
most of it goes to
Union
jobs, and what's left
controlled.
over goes to the kids. So
Right.
so they never have enough. And every time, and parents will see that, voters see that, they think they're giving it to the kids. It's for the kids, but it's really not. It's going towards the jobs.
Right.
because it's salaries that cost so much, and it always goes up and up and up. And I understand, you know, okay, if they're doing a good job, they need it, but when you compare it to these smaller schools and look at the education they're getting with so much less.
Yeah,
It just the
I
more
don't
money
understand
doesn't
it.
seem to work. It's
Well,
a big mess.
and you
It's a
look-
mess.
Yeah, it is a mess.
Yeah, to quote Herman Cain, it's
Right.
just a mess.
And if you look at what the state's doing now from the NEC is pushing this Common Core, and they've already said, like Londonderry's put in for a waiver. They're not getting the waiver.
I wish
the
Merrimack
commissioner
would.
already said, you know, on the testing part of it. But I co-sponsored a bill to get rid of Common Core because I feel it's government intrusion into the children's lives with the data and everything else that has to go to Washington.
Is Jane Cormier the prime sponsor of that
I
bill?
think she is.
Then
yes.
I'm
Yeah, I
probably a
think she is.
co-sponsor as well.
And I think this is an area that's very important because, once again, an unfunded mandate that the local residents are going to have to put more money into education to cover this here, and it's a shame. We need more and more people, you know, to step in on this in
And
Common Core.
I've been asking around, you know, people that work at the schools and what different parents, and I'll ask them. So what do you think of Common Core? Well, they've only heard one side. So
Right.
when they have these big public speeches like they had at, where were we? Bedford High School, they wouldn't let the other side
Right.
speak. And the proponents of Common Core simply dismiss all other aspects of it. The ones that disagree with them, they're wearing tinfoil hats.
That's right.
So they're just insulting people who don't agree with them, and they're not letting both sides be heard, and that's wrong. You need to hear both sides to have an informed decision, informed choice.
Well, when you talk about informed choice, I mean, yesterday one of the votes on the charter school was HB 424, which is related to the review of chartered public school applications by the state. But see, the
That
problem we
that
have,
didn't
and
pass.
it passed, right, but what I'm trying to say here is that the state is getting involved in these charter schools, and I don't know if it's a jealousy thing because they're doing better than the public schools or what.
Seems that way.
If it's working, leave it alone. Let the parents stay involved and run it. You know, instead of getting the bureaucracy involved in regulations and more, and make it harder and cost them more to do this here.
A lot of kids want to go to the charter schools. I
That's
know the
right.
Academy of Science and Design, they had, I don't know if it was 450 or 500 applicants that want to get in the school, but they only have room for 50.
That's right. You know, let's
They get in on lottery.
we could probably keep going on
I
and
know,
on that
just on
there.
these
That's
charter schools. But we'll move on to another
Hey, what
bill.
about what we went through yesterday with the Medicaid bill?
Oh my God.
On, what was that, HB 544?
Yes.
Just so people understand, under the Bill O'Brien's leadership, we passed a bill that we voted for to ensure that a Medicaid
Prohibit a
expansion
state-based
state would not be here in New Hampshire. that we would-
state-based exchange.
State-based
We
exchange.
prohibited that under bill.
And that protected the residents of New Hampshire from not being fined if they didn't want insurance, or protected them from a one-size-fits-all to Antrim, where 10 hospitals, or I believe, were not going to be able to see patients. What say you on that bill, what happened in the fight that we went on and everything else with
Well,
that bill?
we touched on it in the first segment with Karen Testerman, but they just forced it down our throats. First of all, they had that special session, the special session that we had
Right.
in November to try and force this on us in the an expansion of Medicaid, and well, thankfully the Senate. We have a slight lead in the Senate, and thank God that they wouldn't pass that.
Right.
But now they get the bill again, and who knows? Who knows if one or two of those the Republicans will cave?
What's going to happen to if this goes in, many New Hampshire residents are going to lose their doctors.
Well, they could also lose. Okay, Medicaid, it's a loan. I mean, a lot of people don't know this. You get Medicaid, you have to sign over your house. This is what happened to one of our fellow state reps. He has a child that he's in a wheelchair and he doesn't speak. He's a beautiful kid. His
Oh,
skin is
yes.
so soft. I love him. They
And
have
I've-
to sign over
I've
their
met him.
house
Right. That's a
to
shame.
get on Medicaid.
So in other words, this is going to basically knock out a family there and keep them in the poverty level, because if something happens to mom and dad, the government takes this house and reimburses themselves for that money, and a lot of people don't know that.
So you buy your house and you think that someday when you're old and when your time is up, you can pass it on to your kids. Well, no, you get the house has got to go pay your medical bills.
That's right.
So nothing's free. It sounds good, but it's not. There's so much hidden repercussions that not everyone is aware of. I'm sure we're not even aware of all the repercussions.
That's right. All the little, the fine lines in the Medicaid expansion that it really hits near and dear, because most young people today, just like myself when I was young, I didn't need insurance. I thought I was,
No.
I would rather, have one of the nice guy, wanted to buy the home and spend my money there. But that was my choice, versus now you're forced to pay for this insurance, and it's going to be tough on a lot of young college grads, because you might think you're signing up for Obamacare like some of the people and saying, no, you don't qualify for ACA, affordable health care, but you will qualify for Medicaid expansion.
Right, so you get dumped. You
Right.
think you're going to get this free insurance, you get dumped into Medicaid.
That's right.
I saw a cartoon this morning, kind of a parody on the healthcare. It's like if you were going to go and buy coffee, you walk into this coffee place that had like a plain coffee, nothing in it, and being told, oh, okay, that'll be $750. What do you mean $750? I just want a little plain coffee. Yes, but the government has mandated that you need to have all these other things to go with it. You need to pay for coffee that you may want later on. You have to pay for others who may want coffee. All right, just forget it. I don't want any coffee. Oh, okay, well now you have to pay a fee of $100, and next year that'll be $200, and it goes up from there. I have to pay you for coffee I don't want. Yes, because the government has decided what is best for you, and you will pay, and well, I'm just going to go to another shop. Well, I'm sorry, but all the shops are under this same mandate now.
Right.
It's kind of a silly thing, but it makes it so that you can understand, just like the debt ceiling. A good way to understand that is if your pipes break and your basement fills up with sewage, what are you going to do? Raise the ceiling?
Right.
Or shovel out the
Shovel,
sewage?
that's right, pump it
All right.
out and everything else. And the country, I think we're out of control, and people have to be speaking out. And of course, one of the reasons I was debating here whether to run for Senate, because I've been a loud voice for 7 years, so I'm still kicking it around. But right now, the things that I'm focused on, the House legislation, and we've seen what's going on. Like, for instance, I think, what is it, the marijuana bill that's going to be coming forward?
Getting a lot of emails on the marijuana bills. Like, I don't think I've gotten a single email from people who want me to vote no.
My first term, of course, I've been there 4 terms, I voted against medical marijuana. Then after talking to some nurses that deal with patients with glaucoma and cancer, and I changed my views. So I voted against the governor's veto there, and it passed, and we have medical marijuana. So then I look at some of the letters I got from families there that the kid made a mistake as a young kid. He's not a leader, followed some others, got caught with marijuana. Now he can't get college loans or the FASA
His
and
whole
everything
life's
else.
ruined, and he's got a criminal record.
Right.
And who did he hurt?
And I know many are not like myself. I played hockey in high school. I was a leader. I didn't touch marijuana. I stayed away from it. But the thing is, I seen other friends that smoked it, and they followed. And what people don't realize, you get caught, you can't join the military. With a marijuana conviction, you need waivers and everything else with it just to get in. I mean, it's out of control. So I co-sponsored a bill to drop down if you get caught with a small quantity, because we're losing the war on marijuana.
Absolutely.
And my understanding, looking at the studies, alcohol is worse than marijuana.
I've been reading up on that too, and also I understand that marijuana was not even illegal until after the repeal of Prohibition.
That's right.
So that's interesting. But it's been really hard. This one has been a really hard bill for me, because I've always said no, 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 no. But then that when we voted it for medical marijuana, I had actually pressed the red button, and I went, you know what? Nah, I don't care. If it helps them, I don't care. So I pressed green, and somebody down a few seats away called my name, passed over his cell phone to me, and said thank you. And he showed me a picture of this girl who's dying of cancer, and how the marijuana it actually helps her. So I'm just glad that I voted yes on that.
Well, I met a couple of veterans there, and they have cancer, and they were thin as and they were telling me there that the marijuana stops them from throwing up. Their food, on taking with the chemotherapy and other stuff there, they're able to eat and other stuff there. And I look at, who am I to tell you no, you can't if it works?
Yeah, I understand that
and
too.
it's the same thing with, I co-sponsored the legislation that's coming up this year, like I was saying, about making it a violation, basically, so that young kids, because they're getting it. No matter what we've done in the war on drugs, the marijuana is still rampant. People,
Right. No matter how much money is spent
Yeah,
on it, it doesn't
right.
improve it like so many other things.
Now, I know the bill that's also to legalize it. I have to admit, I'm on the fence on that one. I just don't know yet. I've got to look and
The
watching what
small
happens in
amounts
Oregon.
that you just mentioned, I think I'm voting yes on that one, and this will be my first time.
Right.
And but last year I kind of thought I might, but then when it came right down to it and they wanted a roll call, I said, I'm not putting my name on
Right.
that. I don't want my, but this time I might.
I want to see,
Leaning
because my
towards-
understanding is 3 states right now that have legalization of marijuana. And there's a conflict with the federal law. And of course, we have states' rights, where, and there's a special article there that, protects us on what laws we have. So I want to see what the studies are, what's going on with this here, because I have some concerns with driving under the influence, but we already have laws, for erratic driving and other stuff, in fact. But I can't find anything under murders or people getting killed driving under the influence of marijuana. Have you? Any studies? I've been asking.
Not that I know of. But you just reminded me of something. I got a call from a woman, I think she lives in Nashua. She got hit by a car. The driver was distracted by his dog. So she wants to see a law to that force the dogs have to be tied up in the car. And I went, oh, I don't feel comfortable sponsoring that. This is New Hampshire is a dog-loving state. I don't,
Right.
If it wasn't the dog, it could have been his radio. Maybe he was chewing gum. Maybe he saw a pretty girl go by and turned his head. It's
Right.
anything can distract a driver, not just
That's
a
right.
dog or a cell phone. There is a bill to make it illegal to use your cell phone, which I believe you should not be texting when you drive. Absolutely
Well, we
not.
already have a law that's been a couple years old. Let it work. Why do we need to put another regulation in on people? You got, next thing you know, I see in the morning just going to the State House, women putting their makeup on, guys and everyone, looking back at the children in the back seat of this and that while they're driving.
Taking their eyes
What's
off the road.
next?
I'm rude to people when they're in my car talking to me. I keep my eyes on the
Right.
road and I don't turn and look
That's
at.
right. But there's more regulations on people going to protect it, because if you're going to do something stupid, regardless what laws that you're going to do it.
Yep.
So why do we continue to have to put another law in place when we already have laws out there for erratic drivers or driving
Right.
under the influence?
Eating while you're
That's
driving.
right.
Yeah.
They're already there, so hopefully we can get that straightened away. And it's the same thing with, I co-sponsored a bill on which was important to me. I don't know if you know, I'm the chairman of the Elders Affairs Committee here in Londonderry. And what it is that we have seniors that are being abused, and we have
Yes.
other people, trying to take advantage all over the state. So I co-sponsored a bill. I actually went across the party lines with Representative Kathy Rogers, who will tell me in a heartbeat she's a liberal, and to work on this here to make the laws stricter, more fines if you take advantage of an elderly person, or if somebody that is has like some type of mental type issues there.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can fix this here in New Hampshire.
We have a mutual friend. I don't want to say his name on the air, but I'll tell you his name after the show. He's got an aunt. His great. She's 100 years old, and she broke her hip, so she was put in a hospice. They expected her to die, which she didn't. While she was in hospice, her daughter, who was 70 years old and must hate her mother, sold everything, all of her belongings. Well, she was released from hospice and had nowhere to go. All of her belongings were out on the
Right.
street. She had no money. Her bank accounts were drained. She had no dentures, no glasses. She didn't even have underwear. This is a case of elderly abuse, and it's so awful.
Well, that's why I think this bill that we're putting forward there would be a definitely help to the seniors in the state of New Hampshire to put a stop. Because I don't know if you heard the news a few months back about somebody that went into the elderly homes in Manchester, and they were scamming them. They keep them busy and go in and rob them and everything else, taking their checkbooks, and it's out of control. But the laws are weak on those areas, protecting the law-abiding citizens. So, and these are people that need to be put in jail, that need to be stopped, because if you're taking advantage of an elderly person, you got problems, and it's the same thing like on the veteran community, on what's going on, like we talked about earlier on the retirement, how they're going after them there, and we need to strengthen our laws to make sure that we're protecting, the people.
Co-sponsoring a bill across the aisle with Democrats to let the veterans continue to smoke at the veterans' home.
Right, which
And they're old, they've been smoking all their lives.
Right.
They have a room. Actually, we went on a field trip there, and we picked out a room for you at the
That's what I heard. That's right.
in the old soldiers' home.
Yeah.
And, oh, Al,
Well,
that'd
you know,
be a
of
nice room
course-
for Al.
Of course, after 22 years on active duty, I qualified for the Veterans Home
Right.
and
And
the
they have a
nursing home,
smoking room, so I went, oh,
Right.
that's good, because then Al won't burn the place down.
Well, I'm
but now
working
they
on
want,
my quitting of smoking. Believe me, my wife gives me a hard time, and so we're working on it together.
after all they've done for the country, and,
Right.
and they're old anyway. Just if they want to smoke, let them smoke. They already have the room there
That's
for
right.
them.
They
the
fought
safe
for our
room.
freedoms. Many of the Purple Hearts and many people gave their lives for the fight for our freedom, and those would be the last ones I would think we would ever want to take away their freedom, and it's sickening there, But all right,
All right, we got to talk about that
Yeah,
GMO bill, because that one is a big
yeah,
one.
I tell you, that's
Wow.
a tough one. the
Oh
GMO
my
bill.
gosh, I've gotten a lot of emails on that one, and when I first heard of it, it's that labeling. They want labels. My number one thought that came to my mind was, that's going to affect the Merrimack, because I'm in Merrimack. That's going to affect the farmers. They are already overregulated. I don't know that they can handle one more regulation. And that turns out to be right on that they don't want to have to, because it is a cost to them.
Right.
We were told by the other side that, oh, no, it doesn't cost very much. They change labels all the time. It's easy. I'm like, no, it isn't, because if you're putting out a mandate, then you have to have the bureaucracy to make sure that the mandate is followed. That means more money. Where's the money going to come from to see that it's followed?
My understanding, and
Enforce it. How do you
correct me
enforce
if I'm wrong, that 20% or something of, and it's growing more now, of our local farmers are being sold to restaurants. Okay, and like our milk, our produce, everything else, that local restaurants are starting to buy more. And we get a lot of produce and other stuff and canned goods that come in maybe 80%, 75% from out of state. How, by passing this law, how do we control it? Do we stop trucks at the border because other states don't have this law? I mean, I don't see how we can even...
Right, but and see, this is a bill that I've struggled with, because I hate GMOs, hate them,
Right,
genetically
I'm the
modified,
same
hate
thing.
them. I buy organic produce, always. I go to the health food store in Manchester at least once a week to buy supplements and my, and in the regular grocery store, I always read labels, and if I see something that says soy, it goes right back on the shelf. Soy is nasty and vile. We can do a whole show on soy.
Right.
So I don't like GMOs, but I also noticed that products that don't have GMOs, they let you know. They're already labeled non-GMO, because they want you to buy it. So I just assume that unless otherwise noted, the product contains a GMO.
Well,
That's
I
the way
tell
I
you,
look at it.
this is going to be a tough one there, that vote on that one. Because
And they gave us that good lunch with that stuff I eat, all that healthy food
Right.
they gave us, like, oh. And I kept going back and forth, but then I got a call yesterday from the side that is against the labeling, and he finally, put my fears to rest that it is the right thing to
Right.
do to vote against, right now the bill is ITL, inexpedient to legislate, so to vote yes on the no.
in order for the GMO labeling to work, I believe that has to come from the federal government, okay, to put a law out there so the whole state is on the whole sheet of music. Because what that would do to New Hampshire, if we do, now we're forcing companies to just specialize for New Hampshire with the labels
Right.
versus in other, states there. So
And this is
there's
not a
there-
partisan issue.
Right,
This
it's
is
not.
one, it's very interesting reading all the emails and the legislators that talk to each other on our own email account.
Right.
It's both sides of the aisle.
One of since we on the GMO, we'll go to another area very important on that livestock bill.
Yes, that cruelty, because who's for cruelty to animals?
That's
None of
right.
us are.
No, you're right. And I think HB 110 requiring persons who record cruelty to livestock to report such cruelty and submit such recordings to a law enforcement agency. Cruelty is in the interpretation of the person, because was it John Burt?
John Burt said he saw a neighbor put his foot on the back of his dog and nudged him, and his stepdaughter freaked out. He hit that dog, he hit that. He goes, no, he nudged him into the house.
Right.
So what she saw cruelty, but he did not. What upsets me about this bill is that it will lead the way for allowing people onto private property, whether it's true or not. Whether if you're abusing your animals, you're a bad person. But do people have the right to go on private property?
See, that's where I have a problem
Because
under the
they suspect-
Constitution.
Yeah.
You know, you have to respect the private rights. So, you know, if you're welcomed in, it's a different story. But then they could charge people if you don't report it within 48 hours or something, I think the bill said. And that's not right. You're putting heavy pressure on certain people. And then you're going to hold them accountable because your interpretation of cruelty is different than the next person, and you just happen to be there. Just don't see it. And I want to think that the people are doing cruelty to animals, and this doesn't affect dogs and cats.
Right.
This is just
No, dogs
cows,
and cats,
livestock
yeah.
that they're talking about. So if you're herding the cattle into an area and you're using prodders, somebody might take that as cruelty, you know, and where the farmer himself believes that this is a tool that they use throughout the country to move the cattle into a certain area to get them ready. So I don't understand why we're going to go down this road here. And I believe I'm going to probably vote against this here.
Right.
Uh,
That's
well,
another tough one. That
right.
was one that we had a lot of debate on that. I think we're going to talk a lot about it on the House floor, too.
You know, there's a very important bill, and I think we're both co-sponsored on it. It's coming up, too, and that's the fetal homicide bill.
Yes.
You know, and I mean, Leon Rideout there, the rep that put this forward there, is the perfect case of what happened with the pregnant mother.
Right. His daughter got in a car accident and
Right.
lost her baby. Her baby died, and the driver who was negligent that hit them was was not charged.
Right.
A baby died, but he wasn't charged.
And the same thing.
And this just recently happened again where there was a couple that they were expecting a child. All three died,
Right.
but they're only acknowledging that 2 died.
That's right. And I'm a true believer in if the baby, there's a heartbeat there, that's murder. And that's
Oh,
why I
I
was more
believe
than
it too.
happy to jump on board with Leon there.
Me too.
To make sure that New Hampshire does have a fetal homicide bill. Because I believe the 48 states, somewhere around there, have a fetal homicide bill.
They have the pro-abortion lobby, and this isn't even an abortion bill.
No.
Their lobby is so strong, and they have an endless supply of money. And they bring in, they brought in this old doctor, this old man, who I don't know whether he believes what he believes or if he was lying, but he told the Senate at this hearing that they don't feel any pain. That's simply not
Right.
true. They have medical documentation that they do feel the pain.
Right.
The first thing you get the brain and the spinal cord and the nervous system. That's the first thing you get as you start out as human.
But what women need to understand is that this isn't a war against women. This is about mothers choosing to bring their child and have a baby, and then somebody kills her or kills the baby. That's what this has to do with. Nothing whatsoever on abortion issues, but yet they're trying to turn it into an abortion issue.
Right.
You know?
But it's not, because even people who are pro-abortion, if they want the child, they acknowledge the child.
I tell you, we've been having some fun here, on different
Yes.
topics and
Yeah.
legislation coming forward, and I'm sure that we'll be able to bring a lot of these issues out, to the people. I know, like this morning, I had to contact the clerk there because we were doing a resolution on burning the flag to try to get all these other states. Well, the Veterans Advisory Committee all voted against this resolution, so we're pulling that bill on burning the flag. You know, even though I really don't like it,
Yeah.
but it's a freedom of
Resolutions don't-
speech issue, and so.
Now,
we'll
you and
pull
I
it.
are both on the same committee and have been. You were the chairman last
Right.
term of this State and Federal Relations and Veterans Affairs. We have a hearing next week, and I saw that there's a resolution. I think you're a co-sponsor to tell Congress to do something about.
That's right. We want answers.
Remember Benghazi. We want answers. So
That's right.
I hope that passes.
People need to be held accountable there on why we lost an ambassador. Where was the protection? Where's the security?
He wasn't just killed; he was
Right.
tortured.
And
The man
that's
was
right.
tortured.
He was tortured. That's right, and dragged, sodomized, and other things there. And they just don't want to talk about it. Why would a president there put silence to people that were there? I don't understand. What are you hiding? You know what I mean? When they were at that safe house, I don't understand. And especially 2 miles away, where you had a whole Marine Corps detachment that just waiting, that were told to stand down. I'm disgusted over it, and the Hillary Clinton too.
Yep. She
know.
said, "What difference does it make?"
Well, what do you think, Jeanine? How can people get in touch with you if they want to call you and talk
Go
about
to the state
issues?
website. Go to the state, New Hampshire General Court, and then there's a roster list. You have to navigate the site. You just study it. You'll figure it out. Roster, and just go down to N. or you can go to the committees, and we get all the names and addresses of people that are on the different committees.
different committees.
So we're Veterans Affairs.
And
State.
that's right, and state and federal relations and veterans. So we have our hands in a lot of stuff in our committee dealing with
Right.
the
Now,
federal
with
government.
the veterans, we're usually all on the same page. It's like
That's
it
right.
doesn't, Democrats and Republicans together, we all care about, at least on our committee, the Democrats and the Republicans on our committee, we all care about our veterans, and we usually vote the same. It's those state and federal bills. That's
right.
That's where we part company.
Yeah, that's where we on constitutional issues there, because we
Yeah.
believe in the Constitution.
Yes.
And supporting our platform and other stuff there. But anyways, I'm Al Baldessaro, and my phone number is 425-6997. And you just do a Google search on Al Baldessaro, and I have a albaldessaro.com website up there. And of course, many of my constituents call me constantly on issues. And thank you for watching Who's Looking Out for You.
And I'm Jeanine Nodder, also state representative, co-host with Al Baldessaro.
It's always a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.